Welcome to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have Kerry Landis with me once again. Kerry, as many of you know, is the nuclear engineer who brought the HydroGraph Clean Power story to my attention late last year. Kerry had been following the story for a number of years, had been an investor, I believe, even before it went public. He understood the potential that this company could have given his understanding of chemistry and the graphene, the nature of the graphene that HydroGraph had. And so he's been an investor from almost from day one when it was public and before it was public. So Kerry spent a fair amount of time to explain the story to me towards the end of 2024. And January 3rd, I put it in my newsletter. I think it's 16 cents. So it's obviously it's working out very well so far. But he and I think we both believe it's going to still have tremendous amount of upside on the into the future. So the reason I really wanted to have Kerry on now, and he did a great job with Kirsten recently, is to sort of help people understand what the truth is about a lot of the things that have been said recently. And last week there was earlier this week there was some pretty unfair hit pieces, I would call them, that were put out there in the internet. Very unfair, in some cases just untrue, and a lot of innuendo that led people to believe that this is something other than an honest company. Well, I think I'm obviously not believing that for 1 minute, or I wouldn't be in here talking to you about it. And I know my good friend Kerry wouldn't be here either. But Kerry does have a thorough understanding of the science behind it. He is an engineer. He thinks very logically. He has a very good understanding of the business behind the business model that the company is starting to get ready to put into effect. And so I don't know of anybody better to talk to right now than Kerry. Before I say hello, I do want to say that I'm not getting paid for this interview. I don't believe Kerry is getting paid for this interview. There have been some allegations that Kevin Banbar and I and others have been getting lots of money, just getting rich by pumping and dumping, and that nothing could be further from the truth. I know that Kevin is just really, really excited about the story, and he's doing it because he's telling people about it because he thinks they need to know. It's a great story. It's good news, and when we have good news, we want to tell it to as many people as possible. But I just wanted to let you know I'm not getting paid for this. I do cover it in my newsletter. I do own shares, so I am not unbiased, but those are my biases, and I'll lay it right out there for you. Welcome, Kerry, and thanks for joining me again.
Oh, thank you, Jay. It's good to be here again.
Yeah. So let me just, for the record, I don't believe you're getting paid for this interview.
No, I'm not getting paid. In fact, I'm an investor just like you are, and that's the reason that I've looked deeply into HydroGraph. And over my 40 years of investing, I've seen lots of really good investments and participated in them. And my conclusion, and you'll hear more about it today, is that this is it is the best growth opportunity I've seen in 40 years.
In 40 years.
Yeah.
Well, you and I are close to the same age, and I can't, I've been in the mining business, and most of this time, some technology stories, but mostly mining, and nothing compares to this in terms of the economic potential. And I'm talking about the greatest mines in the world, I think.
Right.
At least most of them. All right, let's start out. There's been a lot of talk about the pristine or pure graphene of HydroGraph. And in fact, when you were on with Kirsten a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago now, I'm losing, I think July 31st, actually.
Right.
Kirsten said, and this I think is a direct quote, HydroGraph is the only company that can produce pure graphene on a commercial scale. Can you maybe explain the justification for that statement, assuming you agree? I believe you do.
Yes, I do agree with that totally. And let me give a little bit of background. Some of your viewers may not have the full story. This may be the first time they're hearing about it. So I'll give just a little bit of background. The pure graphene that's being talked about is 100% sp2 bonded. And you got to go back to your chemistry to understand exactly what that is. But actually, Jay, in your previous newsletter that was issued on the 15th of this month,
Mm-hmm.
Zachariah Lonnie, I believe is his last
Yes,
name.
yes, uh-huh.
He gave an excellent description of what I'm about to go over, and especially of the sp2 bonding and why that's so critical. Other other graphenes have that too, but they also have some impurities
Mm-hmm.
in the sp2 bonding, so it's not completely pure.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Graphene produced by HydroGraph is completely pure with no stray other elements in the sp2 bonding lattice.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% crystalline. It's small in size, less than 50 nanometer particle size. It's a two-dimensional material, which means it is, if you can envision chicken wire, it's just flat,
Mm-hmm.
hexagonal structure. In chemistry, we would call it a benzene ring with 6 carbon atoms in a hexagonal structure.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it the lattice uh, a one sheet or one
Mm-hmm.
atom. It's not actually a sheet. It's probably more of an aggregation of atoms into a fractal structure monomer.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's only one atom thick. So
Right.
that makes it extremely small, extremely capable of being dispersed throughout any products, even in throughout the body for
Sure.
biometric type of
Yeah.
measures.
Mm-hmm.
It's 98% carbon and 2% oxygen. So let me highlight that. It's 100% sp2 bonded, said that. So the oxygen is around the outer perimeter of the fractal structure.
Mm-hmm.
And the oxygen is there to provide additional electrons to make it more conductive, more thermally conductive, and more electrically conductive. So that's put in there just for the purpose of improving the benefit of the material. I said it's fractal. This HydroGraph graphene is the only fractal graphene. So the way they produce it, and I'll go into that in just a
Mm-hmm.
minute, the way they produce it allows the carbon molecules or atoms to form into a fractal structure, which just means a repeating structure,
Mm-hmm.
much like a snowflake
Mm-hmm.
has a repeating structure to it. What that does is it increases the surface area for interaction with other materials.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it highly functional in when you do disperse it in other material, makes it, it doesn't clump together. It disperses very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
It's also turbostratic, which means uh, it you have one atom layer and then another on top of it. If the layers are aligned, they'll begin to compress, which means the space between them is like fitting together. The space
Mm-hmm.
between them becomes smaller. If they're misaligned, the space between them is larger.
Mm-hmm.
And what that allows, that's the turbostratic multilayer.
Mm-hmm.
What that allows is each layer to function almost like a one atom, two-dimensional graphene,
Mm-hmm.
which is the highest efficiency
Mm-hmm.
graphene. It produces the greatest benefit. In fact, later on, I'll mention the graphene from HydroGraph is on often 100 times more effective in accomplishing what graphene would do than graphene that's obtained out of the Earth's surface or
Mm-hmm.
out of a mine.
And that's
So,
due to this turbostratic characteristic?
yes, you can imagine that in when you pull graphite out of a mine. So you pull graphite out of a mine and it's been pressed and pressed
Mm-hmm.
with thousands and thousands of tons. So
Tons
it
that
has
weight.
really crushed
Mm-hmm.
the graphene layers that are in there, and there's small percentage of them that are graphene. It has compressed them down to the point that it's no longer turbostratic.
Uh-huh.
It's a it's a fitted together layers that doesn't provide the same thermal conductivity, and it tends to clump together to make it less functional.
It would take a lot of energy to separate those layers. And as I understand it, Kerry, that some of the companies that have gone out with graphene with graphite to make graphene
That's
have
correct.
actually tried to do that, is to separate the layers of one atom thick layers of graphene. And
That's
it takes a lot of energy, right?
That's correct. That's the only way you can do it. Once you take it out of the earth,
Mhm.
you have lots of graphite mixed with a little bit of graphene. So
Mhm.
you've got to really uh, you've got to operate it with a whole lot of energy.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'll discuss that a little bit more
Yeah,
later
sure,
in
sure.
contrast.
Yeah.
So HydroGraph Clean Power produces synthetic graphene. It offers, of course, a solution of the issues with graphene in the past. So for the past 2 decades, the only way to get graphene was to get it out and really work the mined material really hard to get just a little bit of graphene. So that produced a lot of impurities in the past. And HydroGraph has basically solved that problem. There are no impurities in it. Um, HydroGraph has a portfolio of graphene materials. Um, they have them patented. They're clean. There's no impurities. It's scalable. It's a US based company. And in fact, I think their plans are to re-domicile. It's a Canadian stock,
Mhm.
but the company is home based in Manhattan, Kansas right now. They're moving their home base to Austin,
Right.
Texas, and I'll discuss that a little bit more in a minute. But so they're a U.S. based company, and they have a unique detonation process that does not rely on any mined graphene or graphite. It has unparalleled purity at 99.8%. It has consistency.
Mhm.
It's um, it is used for or can be used for highly technical defense related or industrial applications,
Mhm.
which the other graphenes are really often 90% or so of graphite with 10% graphene.
Mhm.
Um,
And inconsistent too, as I understand it.
it,
One of the
it,
characteristics, as I understand, Kerry, with the processes, detonation processes, every batch comes out exactly the same.
that's correct. Yeah, the Hyperion unit is what what they've developed to produce the synthesis. It's an explosion synthesis
Mhm.
process. They call it a detonation synthesis. And out of it comes what has been referred to as solidified gas. It
Mhm.
is a fluffy mixture, a very pristine, clean graphene. And other legacy graphene production from other companies just can't match it at all. In fact, they're likely going to become obsolete.
The market
Um,
will determine that, I guess.
the market will
If
determine.
they're not able to consistently, and especially if you're talking about really serious issues. I mean, if you're talking about defense or if you're talking about
Right.
safety on the highways or whatever it might be, you can't fool around with some inferior product. So,
That's correct. In fact, the testing, and I'll talk a little more about this in a minute, but in fact, let me talk about it now. So how does hydrograph differ from other graphene producers?
mhm.
Well, the other producers are not synthetically produced.
Mhm.
They're taken from graphite out of mines and forcibly restructured to separate the graphite from the graphene. That is a very energy intensive process. Um, it, the other graphene producers provide a significant environmental impact. because their method uses harsh chemicals and consumes a significant amount of energy. The production from other graphene producers is low impurity. Often they don't meet the ISO standard, and usually less than 10% of the product is actual graphene. It's inconsistent quality, and that of course leads to unreliable results.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been borne out in testing. The GEEK, which is in Manchester, England, United Kingdom, and GEEK stands for Graphene Engineering Innovation Center. And so I'll refer to it as the GEEK. They do testing, and they're under non-disclosure agreements to actually bring in samples and test them. So they're a third-party independent testing group. And they've basically shown that HydroGraph graphene wins hands down every time they're tested against other graphene products. And often, one of the things that's considered when someone is going to obtain graphene, they'll need to consider is how much graphene is required to provide some beneficial effect in their product. And often graphene from HydroGraph, they only need 1/100th of the graphene to accomplish the same benefit.
And is that because of the impurities of the others?
That's correct.
And
yeah, the impurities and the lack of, and the impurities contribute to this, but the lack of distribution, equilibration all throughout, or becoming a homogeneous mixture. It doesn't do that as easily because it's clumped together. And of course, the other producers fail to deliver the results that real world testing demands, and GEEK is the example of how that's been demonstrated.
Kerry, you mentioned a minute ago non-disclosure agreements at the GEEK. Would that be because companies would not want their competitors to know what they're doing?
That's correct.
And also, when HydroGraph talks directly to companies, are those also non-disclosed? The non-disclosure agreements?
Yes, yeah, that's correct. Many companies, because of the advantage, the technological advantage that graphene is providing, they don't want their competitors to know about it to get a competitive edge. So they sign non-disclosure agreements with HydroGraph. And the testing, to make sure the testing at GEEK is independent and unbiased, they don't want the parties disclosed that are asking for the testing, and they don't want the companies disclosed, so GEEK can be independent, that they're actually performing the testing with.
Right. Well, I just wanted that mentioned because, a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, well, I'm hearing big things about big companies, large orders to come from, all kinds of industries. Where's the beef, Taylor? And I just want to have that explained, because the reason the company isn't talking about, the names of companies they're talking with or working with, and there's a reason for it. It's not something it's not mysterious.
That's a good point. There's actually two good reasons. One that you just mentioned. Another is that the timeline for testing and process development, so they can integrate it into their process, takes about 18 months for all that. So they can't disclose until an actual contract is settled. And often the end users will not want their name revealed. They'll probably just have to say, we've got a contract, let's say a defense contract, and they won't be able to discuss anything else about it.
So let's say that the graphene enhances their product and they have a big advantage over their competitors. They might just as well like to see that not revealed. Why is your product doing so much better than your competition? Well, it's because we bought this graphene from HydroGraph, and
Right.
so maybe they would rather not that be known either. So is it possible that there will be a lot of the companies that HydroGraph does business with that we won't even know
I,
who they are?
I think that'll be the case. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because it provides such a technological advantage. Let me give an example. One place, the defense industry uses just incredibly thin margins and precision. When you're talking about jets, rockets, missiles, it is a thousandth of a percent change in one parameter can produce overwhelming results.
Hmm.
And same thing with NASCAR. They tune every little detail of a NASCAR engine and car and its performance down to thousandths of a percent.
Hmm.
And graphene can produce orders of magnitude benefit in some parameters, lubrication, for example.
Hmm.
So yeah, they don't want one NASCAR producer or owner doesn't want the others to know that they're using hydrograph graphene.
So for those people that are investors that maybe that are looking for some big name contracts, maybe what they've got to do is just keep their eyes on the top line of the company's
That's
profit and
correct.
loss statement, right?
That's correct.
Because we're not going to have, Christine's not going to go out there and say, some big automobile company, like whatever.
Right.
She's probably not going to say that. I mean,
She's not going to, I'm hoping that what we will get is a metric like we have X number of tons of orders to be delivered in the next quarter or fiscal year.
mhm,
And that will tell the tale. In fact, later on, I'm going to discuss some metrics about why this is a great investment
mhm.
opportunity, and that single parameter of orders, metric ton orders for delivery will reveal where the stock is going. You don't
And
need to know who's doing it.
now as Kirsten has said, they're 250,000 per ton is at the low end. There will be some that's upwards to $1 million
Yeah.
a ton.
Yep.
Which makes me want to ask you, then you talked about the turbostatic characteristic of the material.
Mhm.
Kirsten has talked about layering different layers to get different
Right.
results. And so, you don't have to necessarily always trade off one thing for another, but you can, and I'm wondering, because of the spacing between the layers,
Makes it
if
easier.
that wasn't the case, we wouldn't be able to
That's correct.
engineer all these unfathomable number of characteristics that can be,
That's correct.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible.
It is, imagine taking something that has been compressed, uh, millions of tons of compression on it,
Yeah,
as opposed to something that has been synthetically produced with no compression. So
right.
think about that. Inside that chamber, there's high
Uh-huh.
pressure
Yeah.
inside the explosion chamber, but that pressure is equally distributed all over. So there is no compressive forces being placed. So you can now introduce other atoms and layers of atoms to accomplish all kinds of uh, uh, technical benefits
Yeah.
that is customized, functionally customized to the end user.
And it's my understanding that Dr. Sorensen and maybe some of the other scientists there are filing new patents all the time. And I
That's
would think
correct.
that when there are certain engineered products specifically for certain different companies, that those would be potentially patentable.
That's correct. Yeah, in
And
fact,
so,
they
and so
are.
it's and so it's not just the initial patent of making the graphene with the synthesis explosion
Process. Yeah.
process, but it's much bigger than that. It's almost
Yeah.
unlimited depending on I think Dr. Sorensen was talking about the imagination of the scientists.
Yes, yes. The imagination of the creativity of the scientist is the only limiting factor um, for designer graphene solutions. I mean, it's incredible what they can come up with. In fact, they were saying that it may be comparable to we have the Model T, which revolutionized transportation. And
Hmm.
now we've got Teslas, and who knows what's going to be produced by graphene, other graphene patents in the future. So one thing I did want to mention before you had asked me about to address the hit pieces that had come out.
Yeah.
But before I did, I want to address that next. But before, I wanted to highlight to your viewers that most of the material that I'm going to go over was available to the people that put out these hit pieces. And they're available. First, they were available through your um, Substack and your newsletter. In fact, the last newsletter that you put out on the 15th
Mhm.
had a tremendous description of what sp2 bonding is. It
Mhm.
had a tremendous description about why this is going to take off,
Mhm.
yeah, or it meets all the criteria for taking off and rapid acceleration. And then also Kevin Bambro's energymedia.com and his
Excellent
comments on that.
resource.
Outstanding resource. In
Yes.
fact, Kevin, I just want to highlight Kevin is a very, very detailed analyst, as are you in putting things together. And the two sources that you two provide can give any investor all the information they need. The only other thing that I would add to that is that the CEO, Kirsten Brewer, has tons of interviews over
Yep.
multiple platforms.
She sure does.
And
Yeah.
I'll highlight that in a little bit too. In the hit piece, it was very disparaging of her and the other professors in HydroGraph, and that couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. One of the things that Jay, that I do is, or have done for a few decades now, is I do consulting in the nuclear industry, and I go in to look at nuclear power plants that have issues going on, and I have to evaluate their C-suite and their down level, director level performance
Hmm.
and their safety culture. And one of the things that I evaluate is the knowledge and the capability of CEOs.
Hmm.
And Kirsten is I will say she is one of the best knowledgeable and performing, based upon what I've observed, performing CEOs that I've met.
Hmm.
So the article or the disparaging comments they made about her and the PhDs at HydroGraph were just
Totally
totally
unfair.
totally unwrong.
Unwarranted and unfair. Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So and you didn't pay me to make that comment, by the way.
And
Neither did
and
Kevin
and
or
I don't
Kirsten.
think that Kirsten is saying now, hey, you guys, you can take a hike. We don't need to pay you any
That's
money
right.
for. We are a story unto ourselves. And as a matter of fact, the reason I didn't want to charge or ask anything for them was because I just wanted to get the story out to as many people as possible. And I know that's what's driving Kevin.
Yes.
Kevin
Yes, it
just is
is.
just absolutely going wild over this thing. He's like a kid in a candy store.
Yes.
He is really having, and you and I are having some fun too. You
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
because it's just such an exciting story. All right, so yeah, unfair. I mean, on that one of those hit pieces, they were saying that even Jay Taylor admits to have being paid by HydroGraph, I think is the way they put it. Well, if they had listened to my interview with Kevin Bonbara, I wasn't admitting that at all. I was saying on occasions I have been paid for some interviews that I've done, but I've not been paid, and I'm not being paid, and Kevin isn't being paid for
Right.
this interview that he and I were doing at the time.
Yeah.
But and if those, you were saying that the people that did that hit piece, they had all of these resources. They could go to the company's website. They obviously didn't know. I saw one thing last week. They were saying they weren't even realizing the gas that was being used in the chamber. They were talking about it being methane or something like that.
Yes, that's
I mean,
correct.
so these people don't know anything and they don't care to know what the truth is. They just want to disparage the story. And the one that we talked about, the one I know the most egregious one, they said we're short sellers.
Yes.
So and
Yes,
short sellers before they made the piece, obviously.
that's correct. So they were benefiting from the disparaging
Oh,
comments that they made.
yeah. And then people say, wow, this stock has gone up so fast. And then especially if you're in the mining business and you see something like this going on, you say, yeah, I think I'm going to take some profits. I at least get my money back.
Yeah.
And so I understand the
That's-
mentality. So the hit and run artists, they did a job, but the stock is maybe it's
It's settled out now,
I don't know.
and I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly too. But yeah, it has settled out. So this hit piece, I did want to give Kevin another credit where credit's
Mhm.
due. He actually put out an article on his energymedia.com
Yes,
on the 6th of August, and he says why HydroGraph shareholders should prepare for a tax.
yes,
I mean, it talk about
yeah,
prognosticating.
yeah.
In that he said, uh, well, I said that it's almost a rite of passage for growing companies to be
Hmm.
unjustly criticized. And he said shareholders should anticipate inevitable response from other competitors, from envious individuals, attention seekers,
Yeah,
unscrupulous short sellers.
yeah,
Their inevitable response will be to attack the company and to sow doubt by,
yeah,
as you described,
yeah,
innuendo,
yeah.
half-truths, disparaging remarks. They reflect the negative bias that produces their critical evaluation.
Hmm.
They will also launch personal attacks like they did on the
Curse.
CEO and
Yeah.
staff. There's this, however, for all of us should be, it's not a sign of weakness in this stock. It's a confirmation of the strength.
Right.
You don't get attacked unless somebody is envious and realizes that they cannot possibly replicate it.
Hmm.
So shareholders should ignore these criticisms that are without merit. In fact, what I would encourage people to do is to challenge the superficial, unsubstantiated claims,
Hmm.
arguments, such as they said there are minimal or no revenues.
Yeah.
Of course, you could say that about any of the Magnificent Seven stocks before they actually started selling.
Right.
So that's just a normal course of a business developing to the point that it's beginning to
Yeah.
uh,
Takes
send products
years.
out.
Takes years
It
of
does.
research and development and developing the process, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I can remember how negative I was on Tesla for the longest time.
hmm hmm
Look what
And
he's
then
done with
they,
that
and
thing.
then all of a sudden the
Yeah.
customers start taking off.
Yeah.
And they said there's no customers. Of course, again, that's until the contracts are finalized
Yeah.
in time, and the projection is we'll see. Time will prove, but
Mm.
uh, there's there's a lot of interest. 60 plus people, customers
Customers.
interested, and uh, Kirsten is saying that with before the end of the year here, we should see a few contracts of the smaller type and the bigger ones into 2026.
Right. And she's not mentioning there, those 60s are those companies, the ones they're dealing with directly. Then there are companies that are going through the geek as well that may be purchasing graphite,
Yes,
graphene from,
yes, yes, graphene.
and not to mention the military, which
That's
is the
correct.
bigger thing.
The 60, a good portion of them, some of them were from Geek, but some of them are direct
Okay.
contact. And but of that 60, none of those were military that she was
Yeah.
discussing.
Right.
So the military is kind of the wild card that we know government slash military could overwhelm them in
Mm.
terms of demand if uh, if something turns out that is security critical in nature, which graphene will be.
Mm-hmm.
I think it already is, but it certainly will be because um, China has clamped down on the supply of graphite to the
Mm-hmm.
world. So even the other producers can't get all the graphite that they want to be able to produce the lower quality graphene. Well, HydroGraph then is in a perfect situation where they can produce it synthetically and have the patent and the only company that can provide it. So shareholders should another thing the hippie said is the process is expensive. Well, that they could
Yeah.
all they had to do is read the details in the report. They didn't talk with in the white paper that's on the site for HydroGraph,
Mm-hmm.
the slide deck, and they could have talked with the scientists. Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Sorensen would have loved to have talked to him. Kirsten would have loved to have talked to him, but they didn't call and ask for
No, they
any
didn't care.
interviews.
No,
No, they didn't
that
care at
wasn't,
all.
truth wasn't what they were after. They're after whatever.
That's correct.
So, yeah.
And said it's not expensive at all. In fact, acetylene brings its own energy. It is an exothermic process, which means it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't take any energy. It
Mm-hmm.
gives off energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they said it's not scalable. Well, everything is scalable.
Yeah,
Nuclear
it
power
is.
plants are scalable. We produced over 100 of them in the past decades here. But the issue is the cost. What does it cost to scale up?
Yeah.
And for HydroGraph, it's $500,000 per 25 metric ton Hyperion unit.
Yeah.
That is negligible in industry. Capital cost for buildup, that is nothing. So it just is not
So
difficult.
25 tons a year, at 250,000. So two tons,
Mhm.
250,000. That's the same amount as the capital for a
Yeah,
10-year life of
that's correct.
these Hyperion units.
That's correct.
I mean, I'd like to see a mining company that can give you a payback that quick.
Oh yeah, it's just impossible. In mining companies, you and I have seen 300 million to a billion. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just
And
fairly
sometimes
common,
more. Yeah.
and sometimes more. And every time I see that, I wince because it means there's going to be share dilution or heavy loans, heavy interest loans. And in HydroGrap's case, there should be, in fact, Kirsten is committed to trying to not dilute the shares any further, and any loans that they take out to for the capital expenditures can be paid back very quickly. In fact, I think it was well, you just did the calculation. It doesn't take long. It might take 44 days or less, I
Yeah.
think Kevin came up with
Yeah.
to repay the loan. So shareholders should focus on HydroGraph's extreme technological advantage and
Mhm.
ignore all of the unjustified claims of hit pieces like that. Competitors will likely avoid any direct evidence-based comparison for two main reasons. They cannot compete on quality and they cannot compete on efficiency.
Mhm.
You had mentioned pulling the graphite out of the ground, how it has to really be worked.
Yeah.
Two of the methods are chemical vapor deposition
Mhm.
and graphite exfoliation, and those are notorious for requiring tremendous amount of energy.
Energy. Mhm.
Yeah. And so they, as a result, consume a lot of power, which leads to high costs of
Mhm.
production.
Yeah.
And then I've already mentioned it leaves a significant environmental footprint. So they really can't compete with HydroGraph. So the
De-risking. I think
one of the claim,
yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, I think you mentioned de-risking. Over
Yes.
a period of time, the company has really, I mean, obviously you were involved 4 years ago or whatever.
Right.
Company's come a long way. You must have seen a lot of de-risking during those years.
Yes, in fact, I didn't. I did start right away. As soon as they became public, was ready to jump on it. I wanted to get some pre issuing of the stock, but I couldn't. And so as soon as it was issued, I bought some. But I didn't jump into it full
In a big way.
scale
Yeah.
in a big way because there were a lot of risks that and a lot of unknowns that over the ensuing 3 years, 2 to 3 years, have resolved. And before I hit the de-risking, there's quite a few things that they de-risked, and
Hmm.
I did want to hit one other that the hit piece said, and
Okay, sure.
it said they're not commercially viable. And
How do they know that?
yeah, and again, all it would have taken was interviewing Geek, interviewing the professors, or looking at the white paper because they've documented a lot of what the information that Geek has provided them
Hmm.
from actual testing. And so HydroGraph is the only producer of pure graphene in the entire world.
Hmm.
So
That's
that really sets them up for really a growth that is incredible. Um, they have a patented process which they're expanding, you know, all all day long. Month after month, they're expanding it with additional patents, which are providing called a moat of patents
mhm.
around it. Um, they are already producing graphene. Most people don't realize that. They have a 10 metric ton Hyperion unit that is cranking up inventory as we speak.
Mhm.
They know there are products or that there are uh, contracts coming down the line here, so they're building up inventory, building
Mhm.
tons of inventory right now to be ready to meet that.
Mhm.
So they are already a producer. It's absolutely scalable. We talked about that. Low capex, 500 or $1,000 per new 25 metric ton Hyperion unit. Low energy requirements, exothermic reaction. The process is inexpensive, producing large profit margins. We're talking 70 to 80%
Mhm.
earnings out of each metric ton.
Operating earnings, yeah.
Yeah. And the testing at Geek has shown the performance of HydroGraph synthetic graphene exceeds the performance of all other graphene products. So
Mhm.
are they commercially viable? Absolutely. So that again, that was the hit piece. Could have easily resolved that, and they did not. So how has HydroGraph de-risked? Well, it's a real product. The Geek independent testing has documented proof of that. The white paper describes the benefits across multiple applications, which Geek has done a lot of the testing for that. The applications are, just a tremendous wide spectrum.
Mhm.
Advanced lubricants, coatings, resins, composites, fiber material. In fact, bulletproof vests likely will be able to be made lighter and more bulletproof with graphene. Batteries, capacitors, cement, and etc. I mean, we could go
It,
and even biometrics
mhm.
type of for detecting cancer. Lung cancer was the most recent that was added. Um, they have full worldwide, so they are the only producer of pure graphene. So now, can somebody else get in and do it? They have full worldwide marketing rights and exclusive rights to the technology until the patent ends in 2036. And like we said, they've built additional patents around that. The most recent was in 2022, and more are being added each year. Um, they they have so they're positioned right now in Manhattan, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
They have just announced that they have a new headquarters that will be developed. It's in an existing building in Austin, Texas, and it's being modified right now. So they're relocating to Texas. I think their plan is to redomicile there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the Manhattan, Kansas building will continue building graphene inventory during the development of
Mm-hmm.
a new facility where that will house the Hyperion units. And those full production Hyperion units will be located somewhere. They haven't disclosed the location yet, but somewhere near Houston, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
because acetylene, they can get an acetylene pipeline.
Uh-huh.
So that reduces. One of the concerns that I had in the past was transporting oxygen and acetylene through tanks around the country
Mm-hmm.
is highly risky.
Uh-huh.
So are relocating for the purpose of being able to get directly piped acetylene and probably oxygen too. I didn't ask that, but that's probably the case, which means no transportation risk there.
And I think there's some cost benefits too. Chris
Right.
talked about that.
That's correct.
They're
Yeah.
less costly than in Kansas. So
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
that's why I know at one point she was talking about 60% margins, and then she said conservatively now 70% margin.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you're transporting dangerous material, it's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's no waste products and no environmental impact. The end product is graphene and syngas. And
Mm-hmm.
that's an offtake gas, which is carbon monoxide and hydrogen, which they can either sell, they could power a generator and produce their own internal power for the plant, or they could sell it back to the grid. So there is just no environmental footprint, no waste products at all. We've already mentioned they have 60 plus active customers waiting at various steps in the process, but some getting ready to sign a contract here in fairly short term. Their intellectual property, that's one of the concerns that I had before I started building up a share position is um, the intellectual property protection, and they have patents, they have trade secrets, they have expertise that has required about 8 years to build, to get it right, to build this Hyperion unit that is working with high efficiency. And then they have intellectual property insurance to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
We know there's significant government and military interest because of, like I said, the thin margins that are required for some of these high performance products in the military. They recently had some warrants executed, and so they have 10.5 million Canadian in the bank. So that's about a 12-month runway.
Have you any sense of how many more warrants might be out there?
I don't know for sure. I know there is one last tranche. I believe it's just one last tranche.
Uh-huh.
And they're not due until 2027, but she, depending upon what their needs are, she may
accelerate. She can accelerate
the execution for that. And so, that's again another source of revenue that they will not have to go out and do share dilution as a result of that. They're targeting NASDAQ uplisting by February of next year, and which she's anticipating, and I'm certainly anticipating it too, a $4 plus US dollar share price, which
I think that's what they need to get on.
That's what they need. They've met all the criteria for uplisting in NASDAQ except for the share price, and I'm fully anticipating with all the news that's getting ready to be that is near term coming out between now and the end of the year. I would fully anticipate they'll meet that, and therefore, and the cost of uplisting she mentioned this on her last interview. The cost of uplisting to NASDAQ is domestically is 20 million, but for a foreign
5.
investor, it's only 5 million. And
Mhm.
there's some ways that they can even reduce that. And she knows probably the best how to do that, but it's not that overwhelming.
No.
And it should not require, and I'm hoping, and she's not anticipating that it'll require any other um, stock offering to be able
Mhm.
to meet that. So she has no fundraising plans there, and she's exploring non-dilutive capital raise options.
Mhm.
And she's taking one of the things that you and I had discussed with her, excuse me, is the fact that we were concerned with, and I wouldn't be concerned about this if it was just a moderate growth company that's going to take a long time to reveal how phenomenal it is. This company is not that. It is a tremendous growth opportunity. Therefore, they're very susceptible to takeovers. And you and I
Mhm.
had made that comment to
Yep.
her, and she's taking some measures. I won't go into the details of that right now, but she's actively pursuing measures to preclude a hostile takeover.
Right. Right.
And the hostile takeover, by the way, is not, it doesn't uh, prevent profits, it prevents the phenomenal profits.
Yeah, that's right.
So a hostile takeover can get stockholders lots of money,
Yeah,
but it keeps them from 10x or
exactly. Or something more even. Yeah.
something more, right? So now in the white paper that is on HydroGraph's website, they have a title called "The Fractal Future."
Yeah.
And I totally agree with the comment, the conclusions there. They say HydroGraph's fractal graphene aggregate, that's the FGA-1, and
Mhm.
they now have FGA 2 and 3, by the way, and they're going to keep building that. It represents a significant breakthrough in advanced materials. The graphene is pure, consistent, sustainably produced, and it delivers exceptional performance by any metrics with extremely low concentrations. Most people don't realize the low concentration that's required in a large battery might require a gram
Mhm.
of
Wow.
graphene. That's 25 cents. At
Yeah.
$250,000 a kilogram, or a metric ton, I'm sorry, a metric ton, that's 25 cents a gram. That's a nothing cost to
Yeah.
an end producer.
And especially if you get tremendous benefits from it.
That's correct.
I
Yeah,
mean,
so
it's a
so it helps.
no-brainer for the auto company.
That's correct. So it enhances their performance. It reduces material and energy costs because it can reduce concrete needed. It can reduce plastics needed because it strengthens it. It can reduce wear and tear on any rotating or operating machinery. Uh, no environmental impact. In fact, it lowers that because of the greater performance of application products and saves costs to the end user.
Mhm.
So, the strategic direction of the company uh, is one thing that I think is important for our shareholders to know is the CEO, Kirsten Brewer, is prioritizing speed to market.
Mhm.
She wants to get the applications in place and contracts in place. Defense applications may begin to dominate the pipeline at a certain point in time,
Mhm.
but that's going to take probably a lot more testing. There has to be a lot of testing before that comes in. So I anticipate um, commercial contracts up first, but we'll see. That only time will tell on that. Um, the risks and challenges for shareholders right now is just keep a level head. Don't listen to the disparaging comments or the hit pieces. Uh, get familiar with there is ample information
Yeah.
provided out there
Mhm.
by your newsletter, by Kevin
Kevin,
Bambro's
his website.
website and his X account. He writes on it. In fact, he was just at the
He was at
Manhattan, Kansas site and made a comment about it, I think today.
today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tremendous, and
Tremendous resource, Kevin.
that's correct. You can find out and correct anything that you see, or you can evaluate it. Let me put it that way. You can
Mhm.
evaluate it by taking a deep look at it and just asking a few questions. Anything beyond just a shallow few questions, and you'll be able to set the hit pieces aside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's obvious they didn't do any research. I mean, you don't have to know a whole lot about the company to realize it wasn't what it wasn't legitimate, really.
That's correct. So if it's okay, I like doing this. I like to discuss investor potential.
Absolutely.
Now, this is unbelievable to many investors. So I
Yeah.
want you to hold on for a minute and you swallow and then review the details and then make your own decisions, of
Mhm.
course.
Of course.
So the pricing, as we've said, is $250,000 per ton for their flagship product.
Hmm.
However, the electrical grade, which has more oxygen, which provides additional electrons to be able to be more highly electrical conductivity, um, is $800,000 per ton. And
Hmm.
there's probably a lot of that I would expect going to be requested here soon. But let me just use the $250,000 per ton. Now, with 80% profit margin, that means for every ton sold, you're going to net $200,000 per ton. Okay.
Hmm.
With 12 Hyperion units produced and at half a million per unit, that's only a $6 million capex.
CapEx.
I mean, that's just unheard of
Yeah,
small.
I mean the mining companies that I follow spend that just for an analysis for EPA or somebody to come in and
Right.
or just yeah,
Or just a modification, a modification to improve efficiency in a plant can cost more
right.
than $6 million.
Yeah.
So 12 Hyperion units for 6 million, and they produce 25 metric tons per unit and times $200,000 per of earnings
Per
per
ton.
metric ton. And this time I'm going to use a more um, uh, technological company PE, which is a 50 PE.
Right.
That gives you, when you multiply that out, that gives you a $3 billion company.
Hmm.
I hearken back to when one of the first interviews that I saw of Kirsten years ago, somebody asked her, said, "Is this a billion?" And this was back when it was like $15 million
Hmm.
market cap, and said, "Is this a $1 billion company?" And she laughed and said, "If it's not a multi-billion-dollar company, call the board and have them fire me." And I thought, wow, that's okay. That is some pretty big confidence
Very
there.
confident. She's very confident, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And it's been borne out by, of course, I didn't let that go. I had to research it and I totally agree with her. So $3 billion from 12 Hyperion units, matched by the orders that would be coming in. And that,
Hmm.
by the way, that's only 300 metric tons of orders. That's not
Hmm.
that much.
No.
Um, Divided by and I'm going to use a little higher number of shares because I don't know, they exercised some warrants recently. I'm going to say 300 million shares. Right now it's listed on the website as on your trading platform, it's listed as
Yeah.
266.8,
Hmm.
but it may be 300. So divide 3 billion by 300 million and you get $10 share price.
Hmm.
and the market is forward looking. So this is something that could be achieved by mid next year,
Wow,
if not earlier.
that's possible.
That's possible.
Yeah, it's if things start to happen and the numbers in the quarterly reports start to show
That's correct.
they're selling graphene.
That's correct.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about a report from China, and I don't know if it's legitimate or not. I think I might have sent it to you to see if you had thoughts about it.
You did, yeah.
They're reporting that China that they've developed a battery using graphene
Mhm.
that can charge in 5 minutes and has 4 times the amount of uh, distance that you can travel
Right,
than the current lithium batteries.
right. That
Do you think that's possible that China could be there already and have that at this point in time?
yes, there are, again, they would have the graphene that is provided by having done exfoliation or
Yeah.
CVD. They would have gotten it that way. They don't have the Hyperion explosion process, so they would have gotten it from the other means. And yes, the graphene from that will provide the benefit, but they'll have to use more graphene
Mm-hmm.
because it's impure.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, they can get that benefit, but they would use more of it. And I'm gonna make a conjecture here
Yeah.
that this is hypothesis. I haven't seen any test results of this, but I would think that pure graphene from hydrograph, you'll need to use less of it and you'll get greater storage capacity, greater storage time, reduced storage time. So it's usually they see 10 to 100 times greater
Mm-hmm.
efficiency with their graphene.
Mm-hmm.
So I would expect that uh, to hold out as the case during testing with battery testing with
Mm-hmm.
hydrograph graphene.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned that the electrical applications or battery applications or whatever would probably with the extra oxygen that
Correct.
they would fetch the higher price. But I believe Kirsten is saying that probably batteries are sometime a little down the road because
Correct.
it takes more time to test and all that.
That is
Right.
correct.
Probably coatings and some of these other things that you talked
Yeah,
about.
polymers, coatings are going to be a lot sooner, I would think.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Yeah.
Capacitors, batteries, things like that. It takes some developmental time, but um, developmental times speed up when people realize that they can get a significant market advantage. I know a little bit about the battery market. Uh, from my experience as a naval officer
Hmm.
and I um, just shout out I'm part owner in a business that provides batteries
Oh.
to golf carts and down in Florida,
Uh-huh.
and my brother-in-law works there, Brad Winkler, and he is getting all kinds of demand to put in lithium and lead acid batteries. But so any battery that can produce greater distance, greater storage capacity, and faster charge times, they will eat the market alive.
Of course.
So I would not be surprised if that market picks up a lot faster than we think.
Hmm.
Okay, and then
All right.
the one other thing I wanted to mention, just to
Yeah.
kind of, I highlighted the 12 unit just to blow people's minds. If there is 3,000 metric tons, so that was 300 metric tons
Yes.
of
Yes.
demand. If there are just a factor of 10, if there are 3,000 metric tons of demand, that would require 120 Hyperion units. That would be $60 million in market cap. Again, that's
Hmm.
just so small.
Kid stuff.
And that would produce $30 billion in revenue divided by the 300 million shares would be $100 a share stock.
Hmm.
Now that, we're talking years down the road.
Yeah.
So, uh, But I want to highlight one thing about that is we may be talking, like I said, 5, 7 years down the road, but um, there are 5 to 7 companies out of this 60
Hmm.
that Kirsten is talking with that have stated they would need 1,000 metric tons per year.
Right.
So if any of those come in over the next 5 years, we're there.
They're going to have to scale up really fast when they
That's
can.
correct.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
They can,
another. I'm glad you mentioned scaling up fast.
because
People,
who's going to manufacture these Hyperion units? So I think that's something I know Kevin has talked about.
he
Get
has,
somebody
and
lined up that can put these things out as fast as you need them, essentially. Takes
yes,
about
you
two
have.
months.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Takes about 2 months, I think Kirsten says.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To
And you can
produce.
have multiple engineering companies produce to your specifications, so you can build them in parallel. A company can build parallel lines. I mean, just so people know, this is not rocket science in terms of the building of the cylinder and the spark. It's
Yeah.
really very simple. It's the type of detonation electronics that control it. That's and they do that building in-house. So for a trade secret,
Ah.
but the Hyperion unit, ready to slap on the proprietary electronics, it doesn't, it's not that hard to build at all.
Hmm.
And Kevin mentioned in his piece today, he mentioned, and I fully expected it, I intended to talk with the VP of Engineering soon, but I fully expected the typical margin requirement is a margin of 2. They've got a margin of 5.
Hmm.
And that's the kind of thing that you would expect of a company that's really looking out for de-risking
Hmm.
and and really focusing on safety. So
Hmm.
the bottom line that with the hypothesizing about potential stock prices is if they can if they get any orders of any substance, investors stand by.
Hmm.
Think we're going to see a dramatic run up.
Yeah. And if people start to look into the future and realize how big this thing can come, the markets are forward looking, as you're saying. So even if
Exactly.
batteries don't take off for a number of years, there's going to be some, once there's, yeah, there's
Well,
forward looking all the time. And when people start to understand this story, I think they get very excited about it. It does
abs-
take, as a learning curve. It takes some time, especially if you're not technically orientated, but it's well worth it, I think, and
Absolutely.
very helpful. So sort of in wrapping up, I don't know, you had, I think, a
I
final
have
point.
yeah, got kind of a final comment here, and I'm kind of paraphrasing what Kevin Bambro said on his piece
Hmm.
on August 6th. He highlighted in that article, you'll see a headline that says "HydroGraph, a league of its own."
Hmm.
And so when investors do your due diligence, there's only one conclusion that I think is inescapable. It's that HydroGraph simply has no direct competition.
Competition. Yeah.
The potency of the graphene produced by HydroGraph is unmatched. It provides dramatic improvement of performance to the end user application. And if you just simply trust the technology, trust the data, and understand that HydroGraph doesn't just have a better product, it is the only product of its kind. It stands alone.
Hmm.
So I paraphrased exactly what
Yep.
Kevin, and I
Yep.
totally agree with Kevin. So after all of our discussion, Jay, every investor, of course, has to do their own due diligence and make
Sure.
their own personal investment decisions. But can anyone guess what I was doing when HydroGraph over the past few days got back down below $1.10?
I think I know. I think you were buying some more for your grandchildren or for whatever.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you and I have talked about this. We do believe it is a generational wealth
That's correct.
prospect here.
That's
The
correct.
people who are in this early, and I think it's still very early, obviously,
Yes.
I don't know where it finished today in US money, but $1 or something.
I don't need
It's irrelevant to you, I think, at this
it
point.
is. It is.
Um,
You usually from I'm a long-term investor mostly, but I do some trading. Um, and typically, I'll just throw this out there for people that are traders. Typically, when you get a flush like this where fear causes people just to, well, one, it's kicked off by short sellers and then fear just drives it down. Usually you get a 3-day drop,
mhm.
and on the third day, the selling exhaustion completes, and then the long-term value traders
Start
or
to step in.
purchasers, investors start to step in,
I
and
think
that's what was happening today.
that seems to be what was happening today. That's what are we, the 21st of August, I think? 21st of August.
Right, 21st, yep.
Right, Thursday, the 21st.
And the
All
hit
right, Kerry.
took place on the 19th, and so here we are 3 days later,
Yeah.
and it's starting
Well,
to hit.
I do believe, Kevin, you've been really good in helping to get the story started. And then Kevin with his big megaphone and his, wealthy people that he knows, people that he's been in business with for a long time. And he's just so excited about it.
Yes, absolutely.
He's tremendous amount of energy. I guess Energy Investor is his name of his book, right?
That's correct.
Well, he's living,
Energetic investor.
energetic investor, and he is one for sure. And
Yes.
he has a lot of theories that I think are maybe well-founded in terms of health issues and so forth, how to take care of your body and your own health. Probably good advice. It's a pretty interesting book, isn't it?
It is. It is.
And I would recommend it to people.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
just to learn to know Kevin, because he's quite a character.
Yes.
He's brilliant. He's high energy. He's one of a kind. All of us are. God made each of us one of a
That's
kind.
correct.
But
That's
some
correct.
people are a little more flamboyant and interesting than some of the rest of us. But anyway,
They
you
catch
know,
our attention, and I totally agree. Kevin is a phenomenal analyst. I believe he has done a deeper dive in hydrograph than anybody else has.
yeah,
So pay attention to him.
absolutely. All right, Kerry. Well, thank you so much for spending all this time with us and helping us
pleasure.
understand more about hydrograph.
My pleasure, Jay.
I look forward to keeping up with you going forward in the future. That's
Absolutely.
it for today, folks. I did just recently do an interview with Gwen Preston she's with West Red Lake Gold. She is the Vice President of Communications. I hope you'll watch that. It is a company I like a lot. I think they're getting ready to to generate some nice profits there at that gold project in Ontario. But that's it for now. Until we meet again, goodbye and God's blessings to you.